Get strong.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's The Beautiful Bag podcast. I am your host, LeeAnne Hayden here. I am joined with Rita Follett. We met through, I believe, a Facebook group, but we'll get into all of that. Rita is a new ostomate, 7 weeks in tomorrow. So guys, she has a good story. She'll have a real story of what the first few weeks are like for her being in an ostomy now. So you definitely want to listen into this one. So Rita, thank you for joining us this week.
Well, hello, everybody.
We're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're here. So, you're new into having your ostomy. So it's been 7 weeks now.
Yes, tomorrow will mark 7 weeks.
Wow. And how does it feel today? Because we're going to get into the past of it, but how do you feel today having your ostomy?
Actually, I feel like a new person. Well, it really wasn't a decision. It had to be done. I feel great. I feel like me. I feel like I can live again. Like I'm not tied down to chemo at this moment. I mean, I'm on a maintenance chemo, but I'm not doing my chemo treatments at the hospital at this time.
So you must just feel amazing right now. And it's great. It's great to hear that. So, let's get into that story because chemo, which means, you had cancer, but you also had Crohn's. So yes. Let's talk about, what led you, what's the story that led you into having to, the cancer probably was a decision you had to make that decision, but, let's talk about that.
Back in 1988, disease, surgeries.
1 second.
Yes, in 1988, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I had numerous hospitalizations. I was on almost every medication there is for on biologics, which were, to be honest. And of course, there was no prevail with going. Everybody thinks, they go into remission, but for me, that was not the case. Then in 2009, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. That for me, because I thought if I did a healthy lifestyle, that I would be okay. Well, of course, that was not the case. Then I had surgery for the colon cancer and treatments. Their doctors had been telling me for quite some time that I was going to need to have a colostomy, but of course, like with a lot of people, I didn't want to do it. I was scared of it. I was like, the stigma of having a colostomy was in my head. I just was like, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to be that person. So I ignored it and ignored it and ignored it and ignored it, to be honest. Then I started getting very sick in the spring of 2020. I ignored that. I continued to work full time. Again, I was having hospitalizations. I was going through different treatments. Finally, in 2021, the spring of 2021, the doctor said, we need to do an MRI. We need to do some scans. And that's when they found the tumor in the rectum. At the same time, they found that I had an anal fistula and a retrovaginal fistula, which are very dangerous if you let them go, from what we were told. And after, of course, research I do, because I work in the legal field, so I research everything. Right. Believe it or not.
Right. Now you were talking about, you were scared, right? So you were ignoring, yes. You were ignoring it. And correct. Were you ignoring it because you knew that an ostomy, a colostomy bag was the option and you were just, I don't want that? Was that why correct. You were ignoring it?
Yes. I just did not want to have it. I was so dead against it because of the stigma that I thought people would think of me. Mm-hmm. I was really scared about that. I just was like, oh my God. I was worried about how people were going to look at me. I was letting my, what's the word I'm looking for? Being too vain get in the way.
I get that, because that was me, right? When
Okay.
that was me. When I had my cancer, I fought with my doctor, go, don't put me in a bag. I do fitness
Yeah.
competitions. I'm in a bathing suit. Like, do not do that to me. Like, I can't.
Right.
But it's when you come out of it on the other side. Cause I remember you and I, we met on, through Facebook, through a Facebook group, and you
Yes.
had reached out to me, and there was some concerns that you had too about, hernia. And are you afraid of hernias? And,
Mhm.
so the doctors, so you finally decide to do it, or you're going to,
Yes.
let's go back to your story. So, you say, okay, here it is. It's 2021. We found the cancer's in my rectum. It's in my colon.
Right.
I don't have a choice.
Right. Well, they said I really don't have a choice, but again, I ignored them. I didn't want to listen to them. I was like, okay. So finally, and I was working full time during all of this. I never gave up. Oh, oh. I never gave up working full time. I continued to work. I mean, it's just and my work ethic is very strong. So I was like, oh no, I'm not, this is not going to happen. So, where was I? Excuse me. I get a little emotional. So
Don't be sorry, because we should get emotional. This is an emotional story.
yeah, I know.
And again,
So,
you're only 7 weeks in.
yeah. Only said, Rita, you have to get this surgery. So on 9/28 of this year, I went ahead and underwent the surgery. Well, come to find out, when they got in there, the doctors found out that my intestines were dying. Told my husband, if I would have waited any longer, there was no return. There was nothing they would be able to do for me. And I had about 6 months. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cry.
No.
I'm really sorry.
Do not be sorry. Do not be
So
sorry.
anyway, and here we are now today with my colostomy, and I'm proud of it. It saved my life. I have to say that. I can now enjoy my grandson. I have another grandbaby on the way that's due in December. So, life is looking better. But during the first few weeks of my colostomy, I was going down a very dark rabbit hole. I did not know if I wanted to live or die. I was having issues with leakage. I was having issues with just everything. It seemed like nothing could go right. Finally, I put my big girl panties on and said, you can do this.
And you have.
And I did. And so now I found ways to no leakage issue. I can go about 3 to 4 days without changing, with no smell. It's been absolutely, now I can say, I'm glad that this has been done. And life is important to me. Life is very important to me. And so my son has always told me, he said, Mom, one thing you always need to remember, strong mind, strong body. And that is my motto always. I even have it on my wall at work in my office.
And he's right. Strong mind, strong body. And,
yes.
For a long time, you were letting fear take over who you were.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt. No doubt about it at all.
If you were to tell, if you were to speak to the audience about that, looking back now at where you are now, what would you say to someone who might be in that situation that you were in, a year and a half ago, when you were just, almost panicked about I don't want this, and not even panicked enough to ignore it.
Right. That's right. That's right.
What would you say to them now?
To just go to, really listen to their doctors, really, really get into their heart and really pray on it. I really, I have a strong faith. So, that's what they need to do. I really believe if you pray and you reach out to family and you reach out to friends and you join support groups, I believe support groups are the most important thing, to be honest. I mean, family and friends understand, but they're not there with you. They haven't experienced what you are experiencing. They could go, oh, I understand. Oh, I'm so sorry, and they could say, oh, be strong. But unless they've walked in your shoes, they don't know. But for a new ostomy, it will get better. I promise you. I'm 7 weeks and it's gotten better. And I actually can say my life is great. Even my doctors say I look better. People that I go out to eat with say my color looks better. I look healthier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just don't ignore it, because ignoring it can cause more damage than good. And I found that out later.
Right. Right. And it's a good thing you finally went in and said, okay, I'm going to get this. I remember getting messages from you saying, you know what, I'm a week out. I'm scared. Like you were scared. And I remember you, even the day after, I think, the day after you had your surgery, you're like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yep.
I don't know what to do.
I cried for 2 weeks straight. Any little thing, it didn't matter. I mean, you looked at me the wrong way. You said one word to me. I just bawled, and I didn't know why I was crying. I didn't know. And like I said, I even told my husband, I said, I'm going down this rabbit hole that scares me, because I'm usually a very strong person and I'm an educated person. So I was like, this is not me. I am a usually very optimistic and upbeat person. And this took me down this hole that I didn't know if I was ever going to come out of.
And what was it that was taking you down the hole? Was it the non-understanding? Was it the leaking? Do you think it might have been,
it was not, it was the unknown of what this bag meant. Okay. It was the unknown of what I was going to have to deal with, because this is permanent for me. There's no reversal. There's no chance for reversal, because there's nothing to attach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
hear that? I'm with you, sister.
So it's like, oh my God. I mean, I'm only 56 years old, and I'm thinking, I've got all these years that I'm going to have to be with this bag, this apparatus. Mm-hmm. And, I'm like, can I do it? And I really didn't think I could do it. But then I just found it within me, and I was like, okay, put on those big girl panties and let's move forward.
Mm-hmm. And woman, you're already posting on social media, you and your bag. Already.
Well, hey, I gotta support April Wilson. She makes the most beautiful bags.
She really does. She really does. She makes the best bag covers ever. She's so fantastic. So fantastic.
Totally agree. Agree.
Yeah, she was on. She's been on the podcast. I had her on. I think it was back in the spring. She shared her story of how she ended up in an ostomy. But yeah, her passion and her love for sewing and making these bag covers is it's crazy good.
And she's a disabled vet, which I was military wife for over 30 years. Well, still am a military wife. My husband was the Air Force for 30 years. So I totally got to support my vets.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We do. We do for sure. Yes. Yeah. It's just amazing. So now, all right. So let's talk about, what have you done over the last, two things. Yeah. You're down this rabbit hole. You're heading down into this rabbit hole.
Yes.
And you just decided to say, I got to pull up my big girl panties. Was there a moment? Was there something that triggered you?
I think it was talking with my husband, my son, and seeing my grandson. My mm-hmm. son came to visit me like a week after my surgery. And then it was just, I just started reflecting on how good my life is. Mm-hmm. And I just knew I had to pull myself out of it. So I just dug deep inside. I really dug deep inside of me. Not to do this, Rita. You've got a wonderful family, wonderful friends, wonderful co-workers that I deal with. And I just was like, no, this is not you. You do not go down this hole. You get out of it. Mm-hmm. And I just kept telling myself that. And for some reason, it just snapped. It just was like, okay, you got this, girl. You can do it.
Mm-hmm. And you have been doing it. Now, there's some communities on Facebook. There's some Facebook groups that we're all a part of right. that is supporting it. And you had said that had been so helpful for you. Was it? Yes. And I'm assuming it was helpful for you prior and after. Yes. To meet people, to connect with people. Let's talk about that a little bit.
The prior to getting the ostomy was just learning about, what it entails. But then after having the ostomy, that's where the support really was important to me, because it was people who could relate to what I was going through. And so it was great to have it before to understand, but I couldn't understand those individuals as much as I can now, because I'm part of this elite group of great people.
It really is an elite group. It's an elite group of great people. I mean, I sit here and think about it, right? There's 750 to 1 million people in the US alone that are in ostomies. That's a very small number, seeing that we have 330 million people here in the United States alone, right? And there's
Exactly.
less than 1 million people in an ostomy. So it really is a very elite group of people. But we're powerful, and we're strong and we're resilient. And I think that that's what it shows each one of us individually of the power that, how strong we are and the power that we have, within ourselves. Now, if you were to say somebody's, heading down that rabbit hole, you made that decision, talking to your family, and you just almost said, almost like as if it was a mantra for you for a time being like, Rita, you can do this, Rita, you can do this, Rita, you can do this, until you got to the point to be like, I can do this. So now you're doing it again. You're only 7 weeks in, you're still so new at it. How have the last 5 weeks been since you made that decision?
It's been a process, to be honest. It's just been in the last week that I really feel strong. Like I can say I'm a strong person. So it's been a roller coaster the last 5 weeks, as in really good days and then not so good days, as anybody with an ostomy knows. And no matter how long you have your ostomy, you still have your good days and bad days. I totally, from what I've read and the people I've talked to. But the 5 weeks was an emotional, it was both emotionally and physically and mentally roller coaster, to say the least. But now I feel like I'm on that uphill of that roller coaster, and it's going to level out for me. And
it should, and it will. I mean, and like you said, you have your moments of good days and bad days. You get to a point where you don't even know you're in an ostomy. Like you don't even know you have a bag. Like it literally gets to a point, because I'm almost 6 years into having mine, and I forget a lot of the time that I'm even in an ostomy. When I'm out and about shopping, doing whatever. And
well, you are an inspiration to me, because I'm a clothes fanatic as well. And I love to be styling. Right now I kind of look bad, but that's because I had to be up early to take my husband. But I'm all about my appearance. And now having to wear leggings, I want to get back to wearing normal clothes, like I was saying. I mean, with New York and Company, ordering stuff from them. I can't wait to get my stuff in. I just want to feel back to the way I was before my ostomy, in the clothes that I enjoy wearing. I don't want to be in leggings and long shirts all the time, that I want to get back to my cute clothes.
Right. And you can get back to the cute clothes. And that's the best part about it. Right. When you first have surgeries, you're wearing baggier clothes. You're wearing your leggings, you're trying to be comfortable, because again, we're stitched up here, there, and everywhere. Right. You got stitches all over the place. You got to let your body have a minute. But you can wear the style clothes, you can wear the fashionable stuff, you can wear a lot of what you wore prior. I think the only thing that I found for myself there were two things that I had a hard time not being able to wear. Is one is I used to wear very fitted sheath dresses, like very fitted.
And I've never did that.
And so I've done that, and I know and I've done it after, and you can see, once in a while you can see the ring, because I wear a 2-piece, so you can see the snap ring.
I wear a 2-piece too, the click 2-piece.
Yep. And I love them, because I love just taking it off and throwing it in the trash, and I'm done. It's like, I always feel clean. Like it's almost like every night I go to bed in a clean bag. And you always feel clean. At least that's for me. I feel clean with the 2-piece bag.
I agree.
Yeah. And so it's like wearing the sheath dress, you could see the ring from the snap. Or the one thing that I miss is you can't wear, I no more low rise jeans for me. Like there's where the ostomy is, it just does not sit anymore.
I know. See, I tried on my pair of jeans, and I was able to get them up, but then when I tried to button, I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah, no, they don't work anymore. So but here's the good thing, high-rise jeans are in. So
Yes, exactly. That's what's coming back now.
exactly. So we don't have to worry about that. High-rise jeans are perfect because they definitely do the job. But yes, so I'm excited for you to get your new clothes and start to get yourself all dressed up again and get out of the leggings.
Well, I go back to work on December 6th, my first day back to the office. So I'm really looking forward to that. I feel like that's going to bring some normalcy to my life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I miss my clients, I miss my coworkers. So I really think that's going to help me too.
Now let's talk about that, because now does your job know everything that you were going through, or your
absolutely.
situation?
Yeah, I
Okay.
had to sit down and talk with the two partners and explain to them exactly what was going on. Absolutely. They actually even came out to visit me to my home. They've sent me baskets, they've sent me flowers. I've gotten 2 cards already that they can't wait to see my face sitting in the office, and so forth and so on. So yeah, so they know everything about me. I try not to hide. I know a lot of people say they don't like to tell their bosses or their their coworkers anything about them, but I felt like being upfront was the best. Being honest with them was the best, so they could understand, especially since when I go back to work, I'm going to have restrictions. I won't be able to lift, certain things and so forth. So, I needed them to understand that.
And that's important for them to know.
Yes.
And let's talk about lifting. All right. Because I know your biggest fear was having a hernia,
Yes.
getting a hernia from lifting things. And again, you're still new. It takes time to build core strength back up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what did your doctors have to say to you about all of that?
Well, actually, I go see him on Wednesday, the 17th. So I'm not real sure. We're going to talk about that. As to what I can and cannot do when it comes to doing some. Right now I do. So that's been good for me. And I walk about a half a mile twice a day. So I get about a mile in a day.
Good. Because that's the best thing. I mean, that was how I started. I started with walking, and that was it. And then I started, and I had a treadmill inside because I had mine.
So do I. I'm in my husband's office and I have a treadmill right behind.
Oh, there you go. There it is. There it is. Yep. So that was me. So it's like, because it was in the middle of winter. I had mine in the middle of January. So by the middle of February, I'm like, all right, I started walking on the treadmill, and then, and then spring came. And then I think it was 6 weeks, I picked up 10-pound weights, 5 and 10-pound weights. And that's at 6 weeks. And that's when I did, but that's because my doctor said, because I worked out every day, almost up until the point of having my surgery. And so at 6 weeks, my doctor was like, you can go back to what you were doing. But I knew that for me, anything, when you're getting back into it, you're going to lift lighter. So I started lighter, and then I started adding more and more weights on, for myself. But that's what my body is used to me lifting heavy things and being a little crazy.
Well, yeah, because the type of work the type of law that we practice is medical malpractice. Isn't that funny?
That is funny. Nobody's gonna mess with you.
I know. So I have a lot of boxes that I have to lift that I keep my cases in. So, but I do have a coworker that he's going to be do the lifting for me. So,
good.
But I eventually like to get back into, I've always been a big girl, but I've never been, what's the word, not fluffy is the right word, but like weak. And I feel real weak. So I want to build that back up again.
Yeah. And you will get there. That's going to it's going to take a little bit of time, but you'll definitely be able to get there. And, over time, you will be able to pick up those boxes again. But again, you're brand new, and that's just the way it is, right? We've got to give our bodies time to heal. And sometimes it takes a long time for our bodies to heal.
Right.
Well,
I know my doctor said when he did my surgery, because that was one of the things I talked to him before the surgery, when I was having, yada, yada, yada. And he said, well, he put a mesh in there already to help with it, but he used I think he said like a pig skin mesh. He didn't use a synthetic mesh.
Okay.
to help with that, because he knew that was a big concern of mine about getting a hernia, because I reading the post prior to surgery, I read so many people about the hernias and about how it was affecting their bags and all of this other stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I said, I won't be able to do that. If that happens, I'm going to be, oh my gosh, I will be off the deep end. And so I approached him about that, and he said, oh no, he said, I'm going to put a mesh in there to help. So you will, your chances of getting a hernia are going to be slim, is what he told me.
See, there you go. And those are questions that, that was a concern that you had and you brought to your doctor, which I think is great advice, because some people they don't know what to ask. They don't know what to do. Some people are in situations where it's, I mean, I remember myself just not knowing anything, and I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know where to ask, and I didn't know about Facebook groups, and I didn't know how to go and research. And, I go to Google and you're scared to death about it, right?
I know. Don't ever, that's what I tell people. Do not Google your symptoms. That's the worst thing you can ever do. Even though we all do it, no matter what, we still do it to this day. I still do it. I'm like, okay, what is this? Why is this happening? And I'm like, why am I doing this? I know better.
There's no such thing. Stay off of Dr. Google. Dr. Google's always wrong.
Stay off of WebMD.
Scare you. They'll scare you. But I mean, doing research is good. I mean, it's good. And expressing your concerns. So you got into some of the Facebook groups, you realized some of your concerns, you got to talk, you started talking to people who had ostomies to see what is life like for you. You reached out to people, you did a lot of, like you said, you're a researcher, it's what you do for work. It's who you are. So I think that was super helpful for you, but I think that would be super helpful as well for the listeners.
For anybody who's going to have to deal with this, even after people who have to go through an emergency, ostomy, and wake up and, 1 minute they don't have one and the next minute they do, and they wake up with one, continue to research it even after you have it. And join the support groups. I mean, I read on a lot of these support groups where people they feel suicidal. Reach out to any of us. That's what we're here for. That you all helped me get through some really dark times. And if it wasn't for the support groups, like I said, I don't know where I would be.
Right. Well, we're glad you're here.
Well,
we're glad you are here. We're glad you're here sharing your story. And sharing your concerns and being open about your concerns. Is there anything else? Because I know that you had a few things that you wanted to make sure that you talked about. Is there anything else that you wanted to, share with the listeners?
I just want people to stay, I know it's easy to stay positive, but I do want people to know that this is not the end of life. This is the beginning of life. And I need people to understand that, because I was that way. I thought it was the end of my life, but no, it's just the beginning. It's like, I feel like I don't know how my story will end, but no one will ever say I gave up.
That's right. That's right.
And that's what people need to know. This is just the beginning of a new chapter of our book. And start with a clean piece of paper. It
really does feel like a second birth, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. It really does. It feels like we've got a new chance in life. And so embrace that. Just embrace it.
I love that. I love that. Well, Rita, if anybody wanted to reach out to you, if they had questions, if they had concerns, if they said, you're the researcher, where do we go? So where would everybody find you? Where should people go to find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook. Those are the two things I belong to. It's Rita Stallone Follett, and it's just like Sylvester Stallone. That's my maiden name, Follett, and then it's Rita Follett on Instagram.
Great, and I'll make sure I put I put them in the show notes as well, so everybody can go into the show notes and find you that way as well. So, Rita, I am so blessed that we got to talk this week. I'm so happy that you're here and you got to share your story with us. If you were to leave the audience, the listeners, with just one thing, what would that be?
Oh gosh, there's so many things. I don't know what one thing I could say. Be true to yourself. Just be true to yourself and be you. Just be you. Don't be anybody else but you with your, and be proud of your ostomy. Just be proud of it. Know that it gave you a chance.
I love that. I love that. Well, Rita, thank you so much for being here with us this week. Truly have appreciated it.
Yes, thanks, LeeAnne. And I'm sure I'll be talking with you.
I'm sure you will. You definitely will be.
Okay, and everybody have a blessed day.